Yeah. Good. Now listen to some stuff while I play. Okay. Via this. I told myself back to record.
The following stories are from the Japanese site 2channel and have been translated into English by my friend and fellow horror narrator, Phantasmal Wretched. 2chan is known for being the predecessor to 4chan, with the general gist of the site being pretty much the same, namely an anonymous text board. The following horror stories are allegedly true. Number 1. This happened quite some years ago, when I was around 15. Have you ever experienced this in the past, when walking by an abandoned building, getting that overwhelming urge to explore? This is what happened to me. My friend told me there was an absurd abandoned building not so far away from where I lived. I didn't know what he meant by absurd, but I remember being as excited as, well, a small boy. My friend told me about this place the day before the start of summer vacation. We were both excited and eager to check the place out, so we ended up visiting the abandoned building straight after school with some kids that we weren't even that friendly with. It took a long time for the kids to all gather outside of the school. When all 8 of us had actually arrived, the sun was beginning to go down. We followed my friend who led the way like a real man. When we actually got there, I remember feeling very disappointed. I was expecting a house with the roof rotting away, the windows smashed, the kind of house that screamed, "I'm haunted." In reality, the abandoned building was quite clean. The only strange thing about it was the location, as it was slightly out of town in the countryside. All of the other kids seemed to be disappointed too, but having come all this way, we decided to explore the place all the same. After some discussion, we cautiously entered through the back door. Looking inside, there were strange things lying all around the place. Beakers, cylinders, microscopes. They were the kind of things you expect to find in the science room at a school. We figured there was no way this was a normal house. But what grabbed my attention the most wasn't the strange instruments lying all around the place, but the massive bookshelf stuffed from end to end. There were also a few books lying in a pile in front of the shelf. It was obvious that someone had recently messed around with some of these books. We soon found out who the culprit was. It was about the building in the first place. He asked us all a question. Do you know why this place was concerned? He pointed towards a specific book and told us to open it. We did, and gasped, horrified. The book was filled with pictures of dead men and women, some with their skin peeled off. Even the friend who had seen the silent and looked uncomfortable. But at that moment, I realized something. Isn't this just the house of a doctor? Although still slightly scared, there was a murmur of agreement from the group, and as it so often does, logic and reasoning helped lead some of the tension built up from the fear of the unknown. While the rest of the group looked through other books in the bookshelf, I decided to explore some of the other rooms in the house. The kitchen, living room, bathroom, toilet. After looking through the whole of the first floor, I realized that the person who was living here must have been extremely well educated. It was the style of the house. Even being just 15 years of age, I knew that the furniture was of very good quality. The interior of the house was designed so efficiently, and everything was beautifully packed in, utilizing all of the space available perfectly. Considering all of this, the person who lived here must have been a hard-working doctor or medicine student. I overheard one of the guys saying that a mad scientist must live here. I remember being annoyed at that and thinking he was a moron. The group quickly became bored of looking through the books, and since it was getting late, we all decided to end the exploration with that name. However, as we continued to explore the first floor, we realized something strange. Even after thoroughly exploring, we found no stairs going to the second floor, but it was obvious when looking at the house from the outside that there was indeed a second floor. Using our small brains, we figured that there would be a flight of stairs outside of the building, but there wasn't. One of our friends found the remnants of perhaps a stairway. If there had been stairs there, they'd definitely been taken down. One of us suggested that perhaps there was something hidden on the second floor. We all made fantastical suggestions as to what could be up there. This immediately sent us into an excited frenzy, and all thoughts of going home vanished from our minds. There was a widespread consent. We just had to see the second floor. We figured that entering through the outside would be easier. We looked around the building and found some pipes that were too easy to climb. To see if it was safe, the best tree climber of the group went to test out the route. That was me. It was easy to climb, but something came to my attention which alarmed me. You couldn't see anything through the upstairs windows. They'd been covered up by newspapers and marker nets, so that barely any light could shine through. As everybody climbed onto the roof of the house, I told them about the closed-off windows, and this seemed to frighten some of them. A few of them decided to go back home. Those were the smart ones. Those of us who stayed behind took a vote on whether we should enter the second floor. In the end, curiosity won. As I led the way to the window, I was half happy, half in deep regret of the decision. There was no choice now, though. I had talked the big talk about checking it out, and I didn't want to look like a coward by backing out now. I summoned all of the courage I had available, and I swung over the window. I gasped. Right in front of me was a woman in a swimsuit, with a large grin plastered on her face. I screamed and thought my heart was going to stop, but then my friend began to laugh at me and patted me on the shoulder. It was just a poster. Everybody laughed. I remember feeling so relieved I couldn't even be bothered to get angry. I looked at the poster again as I tried to enter, and something caught my attention. There was lipstick on the poster where the woman's lips were. Although I thought that was strange, I entered the house, and the guys followed me in. I found myself in an understandably dark and damp passageway. Up until that point, I had thought the individual who lived here was intelligent and had good taste. As we moved further in, the abnormality of the previous resident became more and more apparent. Along the passage were pictures of girls in bikinis and other infatuating costumes. Just this would have been okay, but the faces of the women had been carved out and replaced with the faces of dead women, obviously taken from one of the books we had found on the first floor. Any positive thoughts I hushed. It didn't matter if this was the previous resident who had done this, or a homeless person who had moved in. I looked at the faces of my friends around me. The consensus was, let's get the fuck out of here. As we set to return to the window we used to enter, my friend spoke up in a wavering voice.
There's someone there.
We pointed a flashlight in the direction he was pointing at. There was a door made out of glass at the end of the hallway, and as we all flashed our lights on the door, it became clear that there was a woman wearing nothing but her underwear, staring at us intently. In fact, as we stared, it became clear there were more people behind her, all facing our direction. We just stood there, pointing our lights towards them. We were scared shitless, expecting the woman to rush us. But as we stood there, we noticed that they weren't moving. We ventured towards the door, and as we got closer to it, it became apparent. The room was filled with female mannequins. There must have been 15 or 20 of the things, a miniature forest of mannequins. Someone whispered something about how creepy it all was. Everybody was thinking the same thing. The underwear the mannequins were wearing wasn't the functional type that women would normally wear. Even a school kid like me knew this. They were the type designed to infatuate men. It was like we had a glance into the mind of the person who had been living here. Someone shouted, as if to try and relieve the tension.
My god, the guy who was living here must have been a massive perv.
Everybody laughed. I felt a bit more calm and light-hearted after that. We decided to explore the place a bit more before going home. Looking around the room, there was also a broken TV, toys, a CD player, and a pile of magazines lying around. I opened one of the magazines, and sure enough, all of the women's faces in the magazine had been replaced with those of dead bodies. This in itself made me feel sick, but something caught my attention that made me feel even worse. The magazine was from this month. I went to go and show the others. As we all realized the predicament we were in, we heard something. A faint sound of something moving. Terrified, we all looked around the room in search of what could have caused that noise. We could see all the way to the end of the room. I could see all the books, furniture, and mannequins surrounding the room. That was when I noticed something else. In between the mannequins was a face. I saw a widespread grin, an expression. You like these things. It was a man's voice, but whoever he was, I could just about make out that he was wearing a dress. Someone let out a scream. We all started to panic and ran straight towards the exit. I was the last one out. As I jumped through the window and onto the roof, I heard him speak again. You like. When I heard that voice, I felt goosebumps rage all over my body. All I remember after that was jumping off of the roof and bolting for the hills. The kid who lived closest told his parents the events of that night, and the next day, the police went to investigate the building. By the time the police arrived, the building was empty. They checked again the following day, but the house was completely lifeless. The man in the house was never found, and the house itself has since been demolished. I once visited the place when I was older, but there was nothing left to see. It was as if all of us had imagined.
Smack that.
Even now, when I see an abandoned building, I get the creeps. Number 2. Why is it always the pretty ones? I met her on an open Facebook group, mainly consisting of people from my hometown. I chatted to people on the Facebook group every day. It was a really good way for me to relieve the stress built up daily from the long commute from my house to work, my shitty boss who complains about everything I do, and my work colleagues who only seem to be interested in the news headlines, football, and the secretary's arse. It was fun to just relax and talk to people about my hometown, movies, or whatever else I was interested in, without fear of being judged constantly. visiting the site every day. It wasn't long until I started getting really friendly with the people in the group. We started talking more about our private lives, and there was discussion that we should meet up in real life. It was around then that a girl called May sent a request to join the group. I accepted the request, and soon after, a comment was up on the group page.
Hi! Nice to
Yeah.
meet you all. I've never really used Facebook before.
Not really, I've
so I
heard
don't know
this.
the rules. Hope we can all get along.
Hey guys, Lazy here. I've been pretty busy this past week with birthdays and weddings and whatnot, so a couple of friends of the channel have come by to help out with a few of the stories. If you like what you hear, then make sure to check them both out after the video. I'm going to make a longer video for you guys as well in the next couple of days or so to make up for my inactivity, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, choose the red pill and enjoy these Glitch in the Matrix stories. This happened when I was around 9. Everyone was sitting at the table. At that point, we lived in a nice neighborhood. While we were eating, I noticed things were getting more hectic than usual.
It's like the airport.
My mum was
That's
in the
what they're
kitchen,
saying.
moving some pots and pans around and making a ruckus. My sisters, 13 and 16, ice cream truck song in the street blaring. My palms were getting sweaty.
Read it all.
I started feeling.
I wouldn't understand that even if I could do it.
All that I heard was a woman's soft voice say, "Hello." It sounded so loud, and yet so soft, as if whoever said it was directly in front of me. I looked up quickly. My dad was staring directly at me. He said, just a minute. He was on serious tone. My sister finally said, "What?" We tried to tell them what happened. Nobody else noticed anything at all. That it was super noisy. There were no kids outside. The ice cream truck, the TV said a decent volume, and my sisters were dancing hard. My dad and I still remember that. I'm now 23. Throughout my life, a lot of weird shit has happened to me, and this one is up there. Guys like it, I try sharing something. This happened when I was around 16 years old. I was a barely kid. Spent a bit too much time on my computer though, so I made a lot of friends with both nerdy kids and popular kids. It all starts when I met this nerdy kid who I'll call Gavin for the sake of the story. Gavin and I started becoming some friends from our interest in World. Gavin was a really socially awkward guy in real life, although he's a cool dude to talk to online. He's also a genius, who has an IQ of around 180 as far as I can remember. I did the same test as him at school, and I got 103, so he's the real deal. Gavin Gavin and I came to each other's houses a lot after we became good friends. We would chill and play Warcraft, watch videos on YouTube, play chess. He was a pretty cool guy, and soon enough, he was one of my best friends. One day, I decided to go around his house uninvited. He might be a dickhead, but I was a teenager at the time, and I just thought we were really good friends, so we didn't talk. I knocked on his door, and this older looking guy, around 40 years old, I'd say. He had a little bit of grey hair. First, I assumed it was Gavin's dad, because they looked equally similar. And then I remembered that Gavin doesn't have a dad. I then assumed he was a relative. I asked him if Gavin was home. He laughed and told me that he was Gavin. I found this a bit weird. It could just be a coincidence, or Gavin was simply named after his uncle or something. I told him that I was looking for 16-year-old man. Described him as after some hesitation, he told me that Gavin was his uncle. I asked him when he would be home, and didn't really question his choice. After I waited for a few seconds, he gave me his phone. So I came back over when he said, and my friend, the 16-year-old Gavin, opened the door. I told him that I thought he was relative earlier. He told me that he has no relative with the same reason. He also told me that he was home at the time I came by and talked to that 40-year-old man. We both found this extremely annoying, especially since the guy looked so much like Gavin. I still think actually Gavin, the atmosphere at the time, happens to be studied. We still haven't told anyone about this story.
Where am I supposed to go?
November of 2012, I was on radio patrol. My Dodge Challenger SRT-8 blew past me on the highway, going about 99 miles per hour and a 55 miles per hour zone. I whipped my car around, and the chase was on. The Challenger was killing me, and the speeds reaching about 131. That's as fast as my Crown Vic would go. On one particular road the Challenger turned down, there was about a 4-mile stretch of straight, but hilly road that has a T-section at the end. I almost lost sight of the car, but happened to catch his taillights just in time to see him turn east at the intersection. Now this is where it gets weird. I remember coming up to the T intersection. Within, I'd say, maybe 200 yards from it, I looked down at my speed and noticed that I was going way too fast to make it, approximately 95 to 100 miles per hour. I remember hitting the brakes as hard as I could and seeing the dirt wind coming up quick. I vividly remember closing my eyes and asking God to watch over my kids, because I knew I had made a fatal mistake and was a dead man. But nothing happened. No loud crash, no tire squeak, no glass, no airbags, or anything of that nature. I opened my eyes and was traveling through Scotland, going about 50 miles per hour. The city drives me crazy. This is not true. Did he make this huge job and save me? I even caught the guy as a highway patrolman who stopped speeds 50 miles down the eastbound road. I knew when the troopers dashed me. I was 35 seconds behind the Challenger. Any ideas that might explain this, other than divine intervention?
About 7 or 8 years ago, I worked at a Little Caesars Pizza. Usually, I would work inside on the pizzas, but we had just started up this Monday Madness deal where we sold pizzas for $4, so we needed someone to advertise. I was a wild and weird metalhead, so I took up the position on Mondays of just going out there, throwing around a sign to get attention and bring people in for pizza. Not exactly. One day, while I was out there, I see a van coming straight at me. jumps the curve and slams into me, and I feel it crush against the electrical rods controlling the streetlights. I see a quick flash as the traffic lights flick on, then black out. I gasp, and I'm still on the corner. Nothing's happened. No van or anything. Well, I was a little shaken up, so I decided to pack up and walk back to the school. I walked away from that walk. I looked back, and the van just popped the curve into the electrical lights, and I watched the traffic lights speed on. Needless to say, it took the rest of the day. I still think about it from time to time.
So I just lived in Unity about 4 until I was 15. My bedroom was at the very end of the hallway, but it wasn't always the last room. There was an opening past my bedroom that my twin brother and I would occasionally go into to play. It was filled with random stuff, but I don't remember anything specific that was inside. Nobody ever explicitly told us not to go in the room, but it always felt like we were sneaking around somewhere we weren't supposed to be inside. We would forget about the room for long periods of time, and then randomly remember and decide to go inside. This happened a lot for the first few years we lived there. We even took our best friends inside a few times. One day, when it had been a few months since we went inside, I remember he suggested we go in and play. We wanted to be in the hall, but the room was gone. It never appeared again, and neither of our parents remembered the room.
Growing up, my grandmother used to always tell me a story about how a week before I was born, her and my grandfather had my parents over for dinner. They lived down the street from each other, so this was a fairly common thing. The phone rang just as they were about to sit down. My grandmother picked it up, and the man on the other end asked for Annabelle, which just so happened to be the name my parents had recently decided on for me. This is a relatively uncommon name, especially for someone from New Hampshire, where everyone at the time was naming their daughters Jessica. If you look at statistics from that time, something like 1 in 29,000 people were named Annabelle in the USA. So yeah, pretty uncommon. My grandmother laughed and said she isn't here just yet, try back in a week, and said that she'd take his number for me to call back later. The man did give his number, and she wrote it down, just as a joke for my parents to remember. Time went on as normal, and I was born and happily named Annabelle. My grandmother, for whatever reason, decided to keep the note that she had scribbled the man's number on. It was stashed away in a photo album that was soon to be filled with many pictures of me. She loved to tell this story, so I heard it many times growing up. Flash forward 25 years to tonight, literally this evening. I was visiting my grandparents with my fiancé, and they wanted to flip through old albums to show him what I was like as a baby. The scrap paper is in there, and my grandmother grabs it and happily begins blurting out that story. He had never heard it before, as this was the first time he had met my grandparents since we lived far away from them. He asked to see a piece of paper, and his face goes white. This was my phone number growing up. Now, my fiancé is from Virginia, and my family's from New Hampshire, so it's not like our families knew each other even vaguely 25 years ago. He's 2 years older than me,
We don't
so
play.
he had already been born when the call was made to my grandmother, and he lived in the same house from the time he was born till the time he left for college. The number was definitely his family's when the call was made 25 years prior. The only conclusion we could come to was that his dad had misdialed when he looked for someone named Annabelle, and it just happened by coincidence to be my grandparents' number. But sadly, I believe it was part of this story. That my fiance's father passed away last year. Can't even ask if you remember.
My family has lived in the same house for 35 plus years. I was 12 when my grandmother came to live with us after my grandfather passed away. She needed a wheelchair and near constant care. We had to install a lift onto one side of the front stairs. It was a metal platform secured to a track with an electric motor powering it. I was fascinated by the lift and its installation. Not only did it promise to be a poor man's amusement park ride, but the whole process of drilling holes in the concrete steps, epoxying anchors, and leveling tracks was right up the alley of my engineer self. It was immediately clear that my grandmother needed more care than we could provide. Even with a visiting nurse for when we were at school and work, she stayed a little more than a month before having to be put into a living facility. She died a few months later. The lift was a symbol of grief, a monument to my parents' inability to care for my grandmother. When I got caught bragging for fun, my mom didn't yell. She just looked at me with her lip quivering and dashed inside. I was guilt-stricken, and it felt worse than any punishment could have made me feel. I never wrote it again. Soon my father had it removed, which cost more than it should have. This was depressing on many levels. In its place, there were sawn-off anchors running on one side of our steps. They were rusty bolt cross-sections with a thin layer of epoxy around them. I remember tracing them with my finger while sitting on the stairs with my first girlfriend. When I tried to get up in there to kiss her, the next year, the anchors were gone. No rusty circles, no chips where they were. Nothing. I assumed my father had them badged, so my mom wouldn't have to look at them. I couldn't figure out how they had done such a good job, so I had to ask. My father looked at me in the strangest way I'd ever seen him look. His face went from puzzled to disgusted to angry. He got that calm tone that I hated. I've already decided that I think I'm a shit look. He said it wasn't funny to joke about my grandmother that way. How much it would crush my mom if she heard it. He asked if I was having trouble at school, and assumed that I was trying to shock him to get his attention. According to my father, my grandmother never moved in. The lift was never purchased or installed. My grandma went from her house to an assisted living facility after my grandfather passed away. A photo from the time no longer shows the lift. I chipped away at the stairs, and there were no holes. There were remnants of holes. And what about the money? That lift cost thousands of dollars we could scarcely afford. Removing it cost another big chunk of money. Altogether, it was the price of our family car. If we didn't spend it, is it still there? If I look at my father's bank records, will they show the emergency funds we spent? This was probably our biggest single expenditure that wasn't our house or a car. I lurked around glitching matrix forms, and they all seemed imaginative. I can't really understand the things being described. Changing worlds and big memories. My grandmother coming to stay with us was when I lost my innocence. I saw adult diapers and drool puddles. I went from an inquisitive kid who wanted to ride a wheelchair lift to an introspective teenager who saw how ugly my things. It was the first time I saw my parents really feel that something and dehumanize them to me. Making my mom cry like I did was heartbreaking. What the hell is happening to me? Am I completely crazy? Is this what going insane is like? Well, since all this invented by my mind, it's not. Is that either?
So, backstory. My friend
boss. Remember that my family in India lives in a city called Jaipur, which is about 6, maybe 7 hours away from the Delhi airport. So we reached India on the evening of June 21st, and all decided to book a hotel there for the night, with the intention of going to see my family the next day. Morning comes, and we leave from Delhi to my village in a taxi, and the drive there was about 7 hours because of traffic. Well, the moment the taxi pulls up outside my house, my sister and I were obviously very excited because we were seeing our family for the first time in 5 years, and were expecting everyone to be really happy and excited to see us. The gate was open, so the 3 of us entered, and from far away I see my aunt, Nita, and she looks up and gives me a smile. That's all. Okay. Maybe she didn't recognize us. We go closer and enter the house, and I see my grandma comes up to me and hugs me, and then says, "We didn't get a chance to talk much last night, but today we'll make sure you sit with me so we have enough time to catch up on things." Okay. While we were walking closer, my older aunt comes in with a tray of snacks and said, "Did you guys find the cable you were looking for?" At this point,
What was that? Dum dum dum, this is just a waste of time. Dum dum dum, waste of
so long,
time.
and he accidentally we sit down, and I had a bunch of other questions. I realized I really couldn't figure out what was going on. I asked my aunt what cable she was talking about. She tells me that the 3 of us woke up early and went to the nearby city to go purchase what they described as an extension cord. What? This is the first time I entered this house in 5 years. What the hell are they talking about? I look at my sister and she says, "Oh shit, God, we couldn't even find the cord anyway. How are we going to charge the devices now?" She immediately wrote, I showed my sister the other day that she was looking at it, and I told her what cord she's talking about. I tell her I'm old and was acting strange. They're not even excited to see us after so long. My sister goes, "You think they have to jump on us in excitement every time they see us now?" I ask what she's talking about, and she says, "Remember yesterday when we first arrived?" At this point, my sister is annoyed because she feels I'm acting strange and need to communicate better. After showering and eating, when we all decide to go and take a nap, I decided that I needed to talk to my sister. I tell her we never met our family yesterday. We were in bed at the hotel. And there we go. Neither my sister or my friend remembers staying at the hotel. According to them, we took a taxi from Delhi to my village right from the ground. It's impossible. I looked at the hotel. I remember sleeping in the room with the long curtains and the view from the balcony. I remember using the hotel food. I remember the bathrooms and even the fuzzy slippers that I was debating whether to sleep in. The other 2 didn't have any memories of the hotel, and according to them, we spent the previous night in this very house. And cheating. I remember leaving the taxi from the Delhi hotel, and the whole ride me and my sister were discussing how excited our family was going to be when we finally arrived. So what was happening? This can't be a prank. Was this a glitch? I think so. Am I still creeped out? Oh, hell yes. And no, I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating. I don't do any sort of drugs either. But every time I think of this experience, oh boy, my stomach turns. Because whatever happened that day, I'll never understand.
All my life, my mother and I have been somehow mentally connected. Strange little things, like she'd go grocery shopping, and I'd sit at home thinking about how I wished for cinnamon buns, and lo and behold, she'd come home with cinnamon buns. one isolated incident, tons of them. My family referred to it as brain. For example, Mum went to the store and I wanted some Christmas and she brought some back. I must have brained her. Another time, when I was about 6 or 7, my dad was shaving off his beard, which he'd had for a long time, as a surprise for my mum. But it was a secret, and he left it for the last minute. My mum arrived home while he was still finishing up, and I was sitting on the counter of the bathroom. He told me to go and distract her for 5 minutes while finished, so I hopped down and went to greet her. She pulled me onto her lap to say hi, and the second she touched me, she jerked her hand back like I had shocked her. She looked deeply into my eyes for a second and said, "Your dad's shaved off his beard. I'll have to pretend to be surprised." I was devastated, thinking somehow I had betrayed him by letting her know. Not my fault we seemed to read each other's minds. But maybe these were all coincidences. The main post is about one particularly chilling incident that my dad said he would never forget. I was about 8 years old, my sister 10. My sister and my mum went to do some errands in my mum's truck. I was sitting outside the garage door, playing with her, while my dad did some repairs on something or other. After a while, my dad looked at me and said, kind of to himself, "Well, it's been some time since your mum and sister left. I wonder what's taking them so long." I didn't even look up from playing. Just casually said, "It's okay. They're in the hospital. Mum will call soon. But don't worry, they're mostly okay." My dad stood there staring at me for about 30 seconds, and then ran upstairs in the house. Hospital. Mum's truck was keyed. My mum broke her wrist, and my sister was unharmed. My dad's jaw dropped. He looked at me as if I was an alien. Yes, it was a strange experience for him. He packed me and my brother into his car, and we went to fetch my mum and sister. I distinctly remember how I knew this information. There was a flash in my head, like a picture was deposited there. It was of the hospital interior, and I just had this picture flash in my mind. Then suddenly I knew all this information, almost like it had been downloaded. Very odd. I'd never been inside that hospital in my life, and yet, when we arrived, it was identical to how it flashed in my head. Glitch in the Matrix? Who knows? I've had many other odd experiences like that one. If there's any interest, I'm happy to share. This happened about 2 years ago, when I was going through the necessary classes to get my driving license. The classroom portion of the class was several sessions of 3 hours, and was done through my local YMCA. It's about halfway through that night's class, so I'll say it was around 7:30 p.m. Now, the classroom is fairly large, and the tables and chairs were set up in a so everyone's back was facing the wall. One of the rooms was lined with windows, and just so happened to be the wall my back was to. It was the middle of the lecture, and we were learning about the proper technique to perch on the highway. The teacher was in the middle, drawing the roads on the wall. All of a sudden, I hear a window shatter, followed by the loudest ringing, buzzing sound in my ears. At the same time, it was as if someone had slammed my head onto the table with an incredible amount of force. The startling thing was when my head hit the table. I didn't feel it. As a matter of fact, I didn't feel anything. My head was light, but for some reason I couldn't move a muscle. It felt as if my entire body was locked into place, while everyone else in the room was screaming. I could hear the sound of chairs being knocked over as people ran, and I even heard a few vomiting on the tile. The whole time, I was staring at the white table that was now covered in gray matter. I wanted to scream, but nothing. Then, in an instant, I was back. Everything was warm again, except for a slight ringing sensation in my ear. I immediately turned around to see the window still intact on, and the teacher had just begun drawing behind the wall. It was the same one I didn't see well then, and I sure as hell wasn't going to try her like that again. Long been great. Got wallband quickscope to the driver's head, FedEx to skip the kill cam. Hey guys, Lazy here again, and thank you very much for listening. A special thanks to Unit and Lexi for their help with this video. It was greatly appreciated. Links are down in the description below for both of their channels if you feel like checking them out. I suggest you do. Like I said in the beginning, expect another longer video in the next couple of days as well. So tickle that like button in all the right places, and I'll be speaking to you guys very, very soon. Until then, stay tuned. Stay smooth. And remember,